I'm Danny, that witch next door, and you're listening to That Witch Podcast. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here at That Witch Podcast. I'm Danny. I'm That Witch Next Door. I'm going to be your host, your guide, your mentor, and instructor in all things magic, witchcraft, and astrology. And today it's time for another Shadow Chats with the lovely Ashley Michelle.
Hello again.
Hello. This is not our first eclipse together.
No.
Can't
Definitely not. It was remember my birthday.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was the last one, I think. Yeah.
Because we had the Sagittarius eclipse season, last eclipse cycle.
That was
and we are all about to embark on and begin the Taurus Scorpio axis eclipse cycle here. And as I was just telling Ash right before we started recording, I personally am feeling eerily calm about this, which is it's hitting lots of my stuff.
Sure is.
Lots of my stuff. But this is honestly not to be too eclipsey astrologer, but it's kind of a big one. What did you think when you looked at the chart first, Ash?
It is a big one. It's funny. I was just talking about this yesterday with some of my private clients. I think the biggest difference is with the Gemini Sagittarius eclipse fun we had last year. They were very external. They were very vocal. They were very extrovert type eclipses. And we're dealing a lot more with the internal with this eclipse season. And so right now, I haven't fully investigated all the charts, but right now it definitely feels like there's going to be a lot more geared towards internal work, which has its positives and its negatives. You know, I'm a big proponent in speaking what we're feeling. And Scorpio and Taurus tend to not do that. So I do kind of feel like there may be some pause with people within their communities, within their relationships, all of that, of not necessarily being forthright about shadows that may be coming up or how they may be feeling. There may be a lot of swallowing the pain is kind of what I'm getting at. And we want to puke that shit up is what I'm getting at.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Taurus is very throat chakra stuff.
Yes.
So that's instantly what I thought of as soon as you were saying that. This is it's a good piece of information on multiple levels because number one, I want everyone to feel tipped off that this is going to take place on the inside a lot. So to just have that awareness, right? You're not crazy, right? Because it's going to pull you on the inside. You're not crazy. And also number two, recognize that this is happening for other people around you.
Right. And that was the piece I want to get at. We are still moving in the age of Aquarius. There's heavy emphasis on community. And this is kind of where we test everything that we've been learning this first half of the year around community dynamics. Like right now during this eclipse season, do you feel safe to hold space and do you feel safe to be held?
Yeah. Honestly, who rules Taurus, everybody? This is really interesting. The players the planetary rulers that we have at play here during this eclipse season. We have Venus and we have Pluto and Mars.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why this is just going to be probably a hell of an eclipse season. We have Uranus and Taurus.
Right.
Who's been stirring shit the fuck up for quite some time.
Uranus is having a good old time.
Will be. We're only in the middle of that Taurus Uranus journey. One question I wanted to ask you specifically, and this chart that we're looking at for the eclipse is like a perfect example. So before I ask you, let me give everybody kind of a visual. Number one, if you want to look up the eclipse on whatever app or website that you're using, the eclipse is the partial solar new moon in Taurus eclipse. This is going to be on Saturday, April 30th at 2:28 p.m. Mountain Time. So that is 4:28 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, to start giving you an idea. This happens at 10 degrees of Taurus. And this is a solar eclipse. This is a new moon. So sun and moon are conjunct here. Okay, this is not a full moon. They're not opposite. Now, when you pull up the chart, when you type in those credentials and look at this chart, you're going to see a chart that we've been kind of dealing with for a while with these big clusters of energy, with just a couple main players of these big clusters.
Right.
And this can happen in astrology and in the orbit pattern. But there's also, right, Ash, when you and I read charts, like we also see lots of charts where everything's a lot more spread out.
100%. Yeah.
I get a few clients with birth charts like this. My mom actually has a birth chart very similar to this, where it's just leaning. You know what I mean? Okay.
Mine leans really heavy to the right, which would be the left. Neither here nor there.
How do you kind of interpret these times that we move through like this when we're in major times of conjunction like this?
You know, here's the thing. The way that I interpret it, spirituality is a lifestyle. It's not a hobby. And I feel like when we are dealing with congested energies like this, it's so important. You had said this earlier before we recorded about being self-aware. And I love that you said that, because for me, at least in my spiritual journey, spirituality for me is about becoming more self-aware, more aware of self, right? And with that being said, it's so important for us to understand what it is that we need, and also understand what it is that the people in our universe needs from us or with us. And how can we always be striving towards this like better version of self? And it's not about perfectionism or anything like that, but it's like, I don't know about you or anybody who's listening, but I'm always trying to be a little better than I was yesterday. So when we're working with a lot of this emotional energy clustered in Pisces, and a lot of this, you know, kind of stern, boxed in energy clustered in Taurus, to me, that says that we may be a little hard on ourselves, and we may not necessarily be in tune to what we need. As you know, Piscean energy is this forever giver, right? Forever giver, never a taker. And as I'm talking about this, I would say if I had to choose one or two for Taurus, it would be the taking. So it's almost kind of like, how can I make sure that my needs and desires are being met without, you know, feeling guilty? And unfortunately, it's normalcy for people to feel guilty to lean into what they need. It's normal for all of us. I think we all have feelings of feeling guilty for recognizing I'm not getting something, whether it's out of a relationship or whatever we're working through, right? You know, a boss, it doesn't really matter. What does matter is there is this constant of people not getting what they need and feeling guilty about acknowledging that or fixing the situation. And I feel like a lot of these sorts of feelings are going to come up as we go through this bippity boppity boo of eclipses coming up.
So many of those things just ring a lot of bells for me, especially with this, when you're talking about Pisces being the ever giver. And Taurus, we know, being so concerned with sustainability, longevity, resources.
Foundation.
Really, honestly, finances. You guys, your physical, right?
Yeah.
Your physical state, whether it's the house you live in or your physical body house, right? It is your physical living state. Here's what I see this eclipse doing. That big cluster of Pisces, that big cluster of Taurus, and Ash is right. This is a very like watered down interpretation, right? Like very overall umbrella generic. But basically I see a lot of us being confronted with where we are over giving and Taurus forcing us into reality,
to take,
quite honestly.
Forcing us to take.
This is not sustainable.
Right.
There are no reserves left.
Exactly.
There are no resources left. This is coming to an end. That's what Eclipse does, everyone. That's what Eclipse does.
That's exactly what Eclipse does. And it's funny that you say that. I've been on this
it's like beyond your control.
Right.
Spirit's like, nope, it's done.
It's so true. And so I've been on this soapbox around selfishness, because as we were talking about before, conditioning, right? We are conditioned to believe that being selfish is bad. who the fuck told us that? Who told us that being selfish is bad? And why is it so bad? And there is an air of selfishness around Taurus because Taurus wants security. And Taurus will get security however Taurus needs security.
Yeah.
And so leading into that selfishness and allowing what is it that I need right now? Not anybody else in my circle or my universe, but what do I need right now? How can I be more aware of self? Right now.
Absolutely.
You know, it's fascinating.
Absolutely. This is a harsh lesson in self-care.
It is.
This is a tough love lesson in self-care. This eclipse. That's how I see this. This is not you're like, all right, everyone. Yeah. It's time to take a bubble bath.
I was just thinking that. No, this is telling
you
people
might end up rocking back and forth in the bathtub. No, but this is a harsh, this is a tough love lesson from spirit. Yeah. Honestly, many eclipses are tough love lessons. They are. I see Uranus as that tough love.
Uranus does not care. Does what it wants.
No, but we know that the universe, we know that all of these planetary energies as being fractals of the universe are on our side, right? We're all children of the universe. Right. The universe is a life-sustaining force. Right. It wants us to sustain and thrive and grow. It's on our side. That means the amount of times I've been having to say this to people lately, for crying out loud, I'm like, you gotta trust in the process. Do I understand why? No, I don't. No. I don't claim to understand
we just know it works.
I can't even explain it. Correct.
We just know it works. Totally agree with everything you just said.
I read the best quote in, which book is it? It's this new book I started reading. It's called Monsters, an Investigator's Guide to Other Beings or something like that. It's by Jonathan Greer. You would love it. You would love it.
Too.
It's so good. The whole introduction is a fascinating take on how, especially post-scientific revolution, we overvalue logic and reason over the unknown.
So. Oh God, I'm ready.
And that there was a time, I know, and that there was a time in our history, and we're very much Age of Aquarius coming back to a time of unification. Well, it's going to be a really ascended unification, I should say. Yeah. But we've seen this mirrored in the past where there was a time pre-scientific revolution where the known and the unknown were equally valued.
There was a time, exactly. And somehow...
mystery was just as valued.
Found it. Only one left,
Did you find it?
Girl!
Ooh, it's meant to be. It's meant to be.
Literally meant to be.
I'll link it for everybody, too. Yeah. I'll link it. Here,
you know it's Amazon. What's his name is going to get more.
I'll link the Monsters book for everybody. Yes. It's what I found it at the local consignment store. It's been such a gem.
I love it.
But so I do really feel like we see this confrontation in Taurus and Pisces.
Very much
what I can see, right? What is in physical existence, I can reason with and explain, and what I have to surrender to.
Right. Oh, I love that.
And I think that we're going to see this theme overall a lot on this axis of Scorpio, Taurus, quite honestly.
Yeah, 100%. It's the Taurus energy, the Scorpio energy, because let's not forget, Scorpio and Pisces, they play nice together. They're both water signs and they both have a lot going on within that element in and of itself. And we're dealing with so much Piscean energy. I feel like there has been a stellium in Pisces, 3 or more planets, in Pisces since we hit 2022. We've been working with the stellium in Pisces. It hasn't gone away. The planets may have changed, but it hasn't gone away. And so now we're dealing with this Taurus Piscean thing going on. And then we move into Scorpio. When we start working with Scorpio energy, and we're still dealing with this stellium in Pisces, that's when the water energy is going to uptick. I almost kind of see it as feeling bad for being selfish. You know what I mean? Like feeling like energy around feeling like I'm doing something wrong. And when we talk about being selfish, when Danny was saying, the harsh lessons in doing what we need for ourselves, that is cutting people off if they're not serving you. That's telling people, no, I can't do that. I can't pick that person up. I can't lend you $100. You know what I mean? It's about creating these boundaries that you've never thought to create before to make a happier life for yourself. I think these are going to be some hard lessons for a lot of people. Huge lessons around boundaries.
Well, you know what? One of my boundary lessons has been, again, because I have midheaven in Taurus. This is happening right on my midheaven. So I've been, and I have a ton of clients with their nodal return, either just happened or coming in Taurus. And did you know I have a ton of clients in the opposite? They're having their nodal opposition. They're on the opposite side of this axis. So here's my question for you, especially because I know all these lovely clients are probably listening to this episode.
Okay,
Ash,
ready.
The nodes have been in Scorpio and Taurus for just a bit here.
Yeah.
South node in Scorpio, North node in Taurus. Very brief background for anybody brand new to astrology or the show. South node is very much where we've come from, what on a collective level, what we're familiar with, and a lot of what we're leaving behind. Yes. And North node is very exactly where you're heading, direction, soul purpose. Exactly. When you put that into the scope of the Scorpio-Taurus axis, would you give us your interpretation of that, please?
100%.
As how we're experiencing this as a collective.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because when I pulled up the chart, that was the first thing I noticed was the node hanging out in Taurus. That was the first thing I noticed. You know, I loved what you just said. You know, our South node is where we were. It can often be like old habits and old things kind of coming back to haunt us almost. And then the North node is where we're going. It's often the most uncomfortable. So when we're looking at the chart and you see that the North node is in Taurus, we're going to be uncomfortable. We need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I truly, truly believe that this eclipse season is going to be a lot around creating boundaries around our money, around our finances, around our time, around our security, around putting us and ourselves and our dreams first, putting our health first, our mental health, our spiritual health, our physical health, around doing all these things for ourselves, because again, we have been conditioned that we can't be selfish. We have been conditioned that we put somebody else first. We put the dog first, you know? I mean, we put all these things and these energies in these bodies before what we need. And with the North node being there and then the South node being in Scorpio, there's a lot of wanting to abort the mission. Like, this feels too funky. I'm gonna lay into what I know. Cause you know, Scorpio energy is fixed energy. And sometimes it's much easier to lean into what we know, even if what we know is toxic or destructive. We know it. So we're going to stay with what we know. All this creating boundaries and rules and guidelines and telling people, no, that's too much for me. It's triggering my stress. It's triggering my anxiety. I'm going to stay with what I know. It's just easier that way. When really you're doing a disservice to yourself and to the people that may be crossing your boundaries as well.
Yes.
You know?
I love that. Do you know what's come up a lot for me is pace, how fast we do things.
Yeah.
Because one thing I've had to really learn is it takes me longer to do things.
Yeah.
And I used to think like it takes me longer than other people, which like, sure, that's true, everyone. But you know what I'm more learning is that we all have our own unique pace.
Right.
And this is what for me, I see this as that Mars rulership in South node of Scorpio, where we need to let go of this empty value we put in speed that we've been living off of for how many years and centuries now. Faster is better. Faster is the way.
Especially over here in America.
Quick. Yes.
Yeah.
And Taurus, heading into Taurus, North node in Taurus is funny because North node to me is very, you can feel it. It's strong. It's a pull. It's a momentum. But Taurus is slow and methodical and practical. So I see this like rushing of energy to slow down.
Right.
That's exactly how I've seen this North node.
Exactly. I've been saying that too, with just the transition from Aries energy to Taurus energy. Just kind of, you know, telling people, get your ducks in a row so that you can just kind of slow down with this Taurus energy. Because wherever you're at in life, you're going to be kind of coasting there, at least for this next solar cycle and lunar cycle too. Yeah. You know, just kind of coasting there. And we want to embrace the coast because, you know, as you know, after Taurus season, things pick back up with Gemini's energy, which can be a little erratic at times. So let's get high energy. Exactly. So getting our ducks in a row is very, very, very important right now. we want to create steady pace. I love that pace came up for you. I had to learn, and I still am learning. You know, my partner's over in Ecuador, and they do everything so much slower there. There's no rush for anything.
Most countries do. Yes,
we're the
you are
only
right,
ones.
but it's mostly an American thing.
We're very uptight around time. Yes. I have become uptight around time, and I have recognized that through shadow work. You know, it's okay. We'll get there when we get there. Like, nothing is going to implode on itself. It's fine.
Absolutely.
It's a very important Taurian lesson that we all need to kind of learn. It really is.
Yeah. And what's funny about you bringing up, we're just coming from Aries solar season, and now we're in Taurus solar season. The last eclipse season, the lunar nodes we were talking about, was on the Gemini Sagittarius axis. So I think that there was that high intense energy around those eclipses. And I see these lessons bringing us into, look at the retrogrades coming this year. We are supposed to slow the motherfucker down. And I mean, whatever you think, are you listening? Whatever you think is slowing down, it's slower than that. I'm dead serious. That's how, like, it's slower than that.
Give ourselves
whatever
grace.
You're expecting, it's slower than that. Yeah, that's been my biggest... I didn't realize how, I talk about this in my business mentoring sometimes. One of the biggest obstacles I would find myself in is whether I was delegating a task or getting a report to a client, I would give a deadline that was not even remotely based on my capabilities and only based on what I thought that person thought that I should finish it by.
Right.
Which is the most ridiculous thing in the whole world. Right. How would that person know how to measure my time? What a silly way. But when you think about it, that's how we were taught to make those decisions. And then we put ourselves under that pressure and under that stress to perform and provide and deliver on those, and wonder how we're running ourselves into the ground, and wonder why we have now the North Node in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus telling us that ain't the way.
Our conditioning creates a pressure cooker.
Yes.
You know, and this is the deeper part of this conversation is about deconditioning the conditioning. You know, it's a big part of spirituality, of just kind of getting rid of some of these old frameworks of being and of living and thinking that that's okay, when sure, it's okay, but we can be better than okay. Yeah. We are fractals of source energy. We can create whatever it is we want. Why would we confine ourselves to these boxes and these narratives that literally do not serve anymore?
Exactly. So, all right. So, Ash, we've got this energy of these Taurian and these eclipse themes that are going to be kind of stirred up for everybody. How would you advise people to head into not just this eclipse, but knowing that this is the first eclipse of this cycle and of this eclipse season? I think that so many listeners are still so under the intimidation and fear-mongering of eclipse energy.
Oh my God, such fear-mongering.
So I'd love to hear from you. Whether that's how you plan to work with this or how you advise, you know, people feeling intimidated by that, how you kind of harness and work with the energy of this Taurus eclipse.
Well, you know, we've got two big players, and Scorpio has something to do with it, but Scorpio doesn't really come until later. So like, I'm going to focus a lot of my attention on Pisces and Taurus, right? Yep. And the first thing I think of when I think of these two heavy hitters is Taurus, grounding, Pisces, ethereal. Right? So we're working with our root or our base chakra, and we're working with our higher crown or star chakra, right? Soul star chakra. So a lot of it is finding balance between the two, and also taking this energy to cultivate that shit, right? Cultivate a strong grounding practice, cultivate a strong third eye opening practice, work with crystals like celestite. If you guys follow me, you know, I can't talk enough. I'm obsessed with celestite, but yeah, I'm obsessed, but celestite, spirit quartz, right? Lemurian quartz, learn something new about the different parts of spirituality. As you all know, we can go deeper than deep on this. Dig into like a part of spirituality that makes you feel uneasy, that kind of knocks you off your stability train that you don't know much about, like educating yourself on this stuff. And I can't just ground. But also maybe try some astral projecting in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we have a concentration of Piscean energy right now. So I suggest to not waste it. Is one of the biggest things that comes into my DMs is how to be more spiritual. I mean, everybody wants the witchy powers, but nobody wants the work. You know what I mean? We got to work for those, you know, years and years and years of practicing with intuition and intuitive development, right? Even, you know, taking a deck of cards and doing the black or red. That was something I would do as a kid and still did it as an adult, you know, to strengthen my intuition. All these little practices we can do. Creating a vision board that's either Taurian themed or Piscean themed, or even a vision board around what you want your boundaries to look like in the future. You know, with all this Piscean energy and in general, like I said when we started, spirituality is a lifestyle, and it should not be looked at as a hobby. So just honing in on what you desire your spiritual development to look like and where you desire it to go, I think is truly necessary to really work with this eclipse energy. Like, sure, ritual is great. Love that. You know, get you some incense, get some candles. Sure, that's great. But let's go a bit deeper than that.
Yes.
You know?
Oh my God, I love that, because this is because this is the sun and the moon conjunct in Taurus. That's what Ash means. Like Scorpio is not a huge player right now. But when we are talking about that axis, it's so interesting that you say that. What came up for me is, especially since we're talking about selfishness, what you want matters.
Right.
What you desire matters. And so maybe this eclipse, maybe that big unexpected change that it brings for you is finally giving yourself the permission to like say what I want. Say what I want to do. What brings me pleasure. What brings me joy.
Right.
And
not what everybody else is doing. Not what everybody else is doing on Instagram. What do you desire to do? How do you want to play in the quantum field, you know?
Exactly. And the other thing that I'll point out is that we need to work with a lot of boundaries. A lot of boundaries need to be placed, trust me. And there's a lot of you with some unhealthy boundaries in place.
Yeah.
And the opposite side of this energy I see is Pisces, especially Neptune and Jupiter in there, dissolving these boundaries.
100%. And I think that's correct. And I think it's also
blockages. I should call them blockages, quite honestly.
Blockages, boundaries, it's normal. Most people walk around with unhealthy boundaries. I think every single one of us, including you and I, can name at least one person that we have unhealthy boundaries with.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, everybody listening, you know, just know you're not alone, but this is what's going to be highlighted during this eclipse season. And it's important for us to understand this lesson, overstand this lesson even, and maybe implement something. And, you know, everybody, we don't know your situation. You know, we don't know what exactly is happening. But what I do know is we could all do a little bit to just be a little better when it comes to creating boundaries and creating safe space for ourselves. Read is our safe space too.
100%. Absolutely. This is, when I say this tough lesson from spirit, this tough love lesson in self-care, I mean that as soon as you said that, Ash, like, that person or that place or that thing that keeps draining you of all of your energy, all of your reserves, service is going, or spirit is going to be like, no, this is not serving. This is draining. This is done now. That thing that you keep making excuses for, I'm going to remove it. This is what eclipses do. Honestly, this is what Uranus does. It's those things that we choose to be like, no. And especially, you know who does this? Scorpio. Taurus and Capricorn. Anyone with toxic loyalty in their traits. Yeah. You make excuses
I love that.
all day long. All day long. But this person hasn't hurt me. But they didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
But they've been my friend for so long, or but I've been going to that place for this long.
But this is what I know. Yeah.
Right. But this is what I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's that's that Scorpio South Node.
Right.
This is emotional comfort. This is emotional familiarity.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it. That's it.
And you know who does not like being uncomfortable? Taurus.
Taurus hates being uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it's the name of the game.
Again, even if it's toxic, as long as Taurus is comfortable in it, we Gucci. Taurus does not like being uncomfortable.
Exactly.
And we're all going to be uncomfortable. So, you know.
Yeah, this is a good time to explore what discomforts you're having, especially in your physical body and physical environment, where you notice physical discomfort, disharmony, imbalance. These are the areas of life that this is probably addressing. Yep, exactly. That's the place calling for your attention.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to remember, I have to remind myself this. I'm sure you do. Sometimes I have to remember to pull my little nerdy nose out of the chart. Yeah. Look around at my real life happening, right? Where am I physically being called to?
Right. Like, you know, is there too much clutter going on in your house? Yep. Do you need to get rid of stuff? Do you feel like you can breathe? You know, the old saying, you can't cook in a dirty kitchen. Like, where are you feeling? I love how you said physical discomfort because we're dealing with such physical energy. Yep. You know, so that is so, so, so important. And how can we kind of release some of that tension?
Exactly. So I love that. I think this is a really wonderful place to begin for your eclipse season, for this upcoming eclipse season. I think that this offers a good insight into a lot of the themes, but I think that we're giving you, and this is exactly why I wanted the episode to come out today, Tuesday, and give everyone some time to really be intentional. Yeah. Just if nothing else with this eclipse, be present. That's grounding work.
That's grounding work.
Right
exactly.
There.
Exactly.
Just be present and notice things. Man, these are just getting better and better.
Better and better. I love it. I love it.
I love these. I love this.
So good.
Ash, please tell us, Miss Starseed Shadows, where can we find you, follow you, and support you?
Starseed Shadows everywhere. The Divinity series will be reopening in about a week or so. So be on the lookout for that. Spiritual development coaching. It's amazing. And yeah, Starseed Shadows on TikTok, on Instagram, StarSeedShadows.com. And that's where I'm at. And my podcast, The Goddess Complex.
Yes. Do not forget to go listen to Ashley's podcast. This was amazing. We're sending all of you the best. All the blessings, all the intuition.
Many blessings.
Yes.
So much love. Don't be afraid of this eclipse season. Yes. Great power from this eclipse season. Taurus and Scorpio are powerful. They both love power and money, and they're both driven. We can really create some magic underneath this eclipse season, you know?
We can level up. I totally agree. I love that. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Everyone, thank you, especially since we're talking about so many physical things. Thank you for spending your time here today.
Seriously.
Thanks for taking time and listening here with us. You know where to find me. You know where to find Ash. Send any thoughts or questions our way. And this was amazing.
Awesome.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, you magical human. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of That Witch podcast. If you want to support the show, the best way to do that is to share with a friend or give a shout out on your social media. You can also leave a 5-star rating and review on both Apple and Spotify. And if you can't get enough of all of our witchy magical content here in the neighborhood, you definitely want to make sure you're subscribed to my email newsletter, That Witch Gazette. It's a really fun, really convenient one-stop shop to stay up to date on all of the news and happenings here in our neighborhood. If you have any questions, suggestions, ideas for the show, or if you'd like to sponsor an episode, you can send me a message at thatwitchnextdoor.com/conjurethatwitch. Thank you so much. I'll see y'all next time.